I'm gonna go.
This is fucking bullshit!
I can't get off!
What is this?
I can't get off!
What is this?
Warning, this video is a stream highlight upload. Thank you so much for watching, and you can always catch the live releases Monday through Friday. Have yourself a wonderful day, and please stay safe out there. He is an American far-right political blogger and software developer. He's also known, along with the accelerationist philosopher Nick Land, for funding the anti-egalitarian and anti-democratic philosophical movement known as the Dark Enlightenment. Oh, yeah, dude. I've heard someone talk about this guy already. Or a neo-reactionary movement. NRX, which originated in the late 2000s. By the early 2010s, Yarvin and his ideas were noted as having growing ideological influence in the American right, including among prominent figures such as Vice President J.D. Vance, and venture capitalist and Republican mega donor Peter Thiel. Hey, go to site. Let me in. Let me in. Accept losttogod. Yeah. Oh shit. There's like, where do you want to start your wave of change journey, dude? Let's see here. Finish. I so did not follow that correctly. Alright, now I'm in there. Haha. Oh no, whoops. That was actually my Discord instead of the thing. Haha! I have now invaded your Discord. Jorge, hello! So this guy is contribution to the Dark Enlightenment and creating Yerbit. He's got 3 kids. Oh no. Oh, I don't feel like I'm gonna like this guy.
He's influential. Should know him.
Okay, let's learn about Curtis Yarvin and then Glen Weyl.
This is open to debate. Welcome, everybody. I'm John Donovan. I wear the office of Moderator-in-Chief. We're in New York City at a club called Racket New York City, normally a music venue, but we have taken it over to hold a debate in a place that happens to stand just a mile or so from an historic site, the tavern where, in 1783, George Washington said farewell to his troops after leading them to victory in the American Revolution. Appropriately close given why we are here today and what we are debating. But before we get to that, I want to remind you that around the time of the war's end, there were calls made for George Washington to be given a crown and proclaimed king of the new United States. It was a
Thank God we decided against that. What the fuck?
proposal that came from some of the officers who served under him. They were serious about it. They were concerned that the operation of the United States pre-Constitution was revealing all kinds of disorder and confusion, but they didn't.
Losttogod is going to find this slow or not angry enough. Heck yeah, Jolene! Yes. If I stepped on any toes officially, I apologize.
Get very much traction with the idea. Even though they felt a strong hand was needed to take over, Washington himself was a very, very big no on the whole concept. His
Gotta go. Have a great one. Hey, have a wonderful time, Jolene.
words about it were, humanity revolts at the idea. This revulsion, it's fair to say, toward one-man rule, one-person rule, towards extreme concentration of power, also guided the drafters of the Constitution, which still governs us today. James Madison wrote in the Federalist paper, "The accumulation of all powers in the same hands may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny."
True! I have the Federalist paper up here, by the way. I read that in high school.
And so we have the system that we have. Nobody says that it's perfect, but we've all been taught from a very early age to believe that it's pretty good and far better than the alternative, especially if that alternative is dictatorship. Well, one of our debaters takes issue with that last premise, and his increasing influence in Silicon Valley and in some other policy circles has been growing for some time. He was the subject of a lengthy piece in a New Yorker profile in June of 2025. In July, Elon Musk reportedly consulted with him on the formation of a new political party. He's also been cited admiringly by the current US Vice President, J.D. Vance. His argument of record is that the American system of governance, our republic that we consider to be in many aspects democratic or guided by democratic values, has failed, and that it's time for a
Bets on how long he stays here listening. Rude.
form of dictatorship as the best solution for what ails the American body politic. You're about to meet him and to hear his arguments. You'll also meet his opponent, who is raring to tell you all that he thinks is wrong with such thinking. But allow me first to spell out the question which is up for debate. It is this: should the US be ruled by a CEO dictator?
No. No, it shouldn't be. That is antithetical to everything that makes America America. Like, I'm so confused. Like, why would anyone ask this question? No. No. Our governments exist to keep businesses in check so that we don't have individual states such as federal businesses, dude, that can dictate and control everything, dude. Our government exists to keep capitalism in check to an extent. The need of the people will arise to match the need of capital. I'm you know what? I'm gonna be really into this one. I'm gonna blow a gasket, dude. How can they ask? It's a stupid question in America.
Let's meet our debaters. Arguing that the answer to that question should be yes, I want to welcome Curtis Yarvin. Curtis Yarvin is a computer scientist and political philosopher. He's had many blogs over the years, including one under the pseudonym Mencius Moldbug.
Mencius Moldbug. I already don't like him. Who names himself Mencius Moldbug?
And most recently, his Substack, Great Mirror. Yarvin has experience as a CEO. He founded a startup called LYME that developed a software called Urbit, and although he departed that company in 2019, he returned last year. He is here with us now to debate and make his argument. Curtis, welcome to Open to Debate. And here to argue the other side, that the U.S. should not be ruled by a CEO dictator, I want to welcome Glen Weyl. Glen is the founder of the Plurality Institute and a board member of the organization Radical Exchange Foundation. He's been widely recognized for being a pioneer in the field of digital democracy, and he is currently founder and research lead of Microsoft Research Plural Technology Collaboratory, which is aimed at
I don't like this guy either. Yeah, dude, he does look like he picks his nose and eats it.
making sure that technologies are a force for diversity and democracy in the world. Glen, welcome to Open to Debate.
Thank you.
If the two of you could just for a moment come
They both look evil. Is it just me? Do they both look evil?
center stage, I just want to do a little bit of stagecraft and ask you to shake hands to get us started. Thank you.
Double-handed.
Let's get to our opening statements in our opening round, and this is where each of our debaters has the floor exclusively to himself for a few minutes to explain their position. Curtis, you are up first. You, again, are arguing that the U.S. should be ruled by a CEO dictator. Here's your chance, please, to tell us why.
Thank you so much, guys, for being here this beautiful New York fall evening. So I have a proposal here which many people have would find instinctively anathema, horrifying, strange, exhausting.
I'm sorry, dude. You are a bloated looking fucking dork. You don't even take care of your own body. How are we going to sit here and, like, tell us that you want to rule our planet, dude? No, thank you.
Weird. And to me, when I look at the weirdness of this proposal as perceived by the mind of the ordinary person at this time in the 21st century, I think it's sort of a sign of, in a way, how far away from reality the mass mind of the 21st.
Why is he standing like there's something up his ass, dude? Bro, like, relax, buddy.
First century.
You're only, like, coming out here and saying disgusting shit so far. Let's see what you got.
Yes, and I'd like to explain that by simply starting, and this may sound a little bit nerdy, but if you replace government with X, and you say the question is, should X, where X is not X the company.
I don't like him, but body shaming, what the fuck? Look, man. He's standing like he's watching like two kids fight at a ball game. And he's like, boys will be boys, while he's... Nah, bro.
But yes, also X the company.
Yeah.
Where X is any endeavor requiring the cooperation of a large or even small number of people. And the question is, should this group of people who are trying to get something done be coordinated by a single central organization or a central structure? The answer is almost always yes. And so, for example, you probably have an iPhone or a clone iPhone.
Don't tell me his argument is going to be because it's faster. And, like, the perfect blend of what we have is having strong, independent, private practices, and then a government that regulates and oversees those practices. Like, the reason why governments are designed the way they are is they move slow. Any abrupt change you make to an economy or like to people's living, like there's always fallout for every choice you make, even like the smallest of decisions. So like, you want a big, slow, amorphous fucking blob that is called the government that moves slowly and can make long or changes that happen like periodically throughout time, where they almost feel like they're stagnant. Because if you make too abrupt of a change, like let's say we give everyone healthcare tomorrow, that could technically bankrupt our company or our country in ways that we just can't possibly conceive. That's why we do things in like rollouts and stuff. Having like a fucking corporations can like completely overhaul their entire system from the ground up in days. But corporations aren't meant to survive constantly. They're only meant to survive while they turn a profit. Corporations go under when they're not turning a profit. So they have to expand and like modulate incredibly effectively on the fly, but they can't have long-term understanding. Like there's just no way, because you can't predict markets that way, because we don't know what's coming out tomorrow. We don't know what the fate of things are going to be. We have like a relative understanding of like the economy, and we have a pretty straightforward idea on where it's going. But like to actually interpret the market ahead of time, millions of people have tried for years, and they don't do it. Like, nah.
If you look at the box that iPhone came in, it says designed by Apple in California, made in China. Okay, by my count, that is 2 monarchies, Apple and China, and 2 one-party states, China and California. Now, if we look at the difference between how the organizations of China and California, both of which are sort of governing structures, operate, we see very clearly that the government of California, the organization of Sacramento, could never have created the iPhone. Imagine Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation, being asked to create an electric car.
This can be done all the time. Didn't they make the internet? Like, wasn't that a government-funded program? The government funds programs that don't necessarily turn a profit. and they work on them for a long period of time until they become profitable, or they do something that's called a like good or service that is like an essential requirement for the American people. What the fuck is he talking about?
This idea is absurd, it is preposterous, it is out of reality. And so we see that basically...
You zeroed in on one particular government body or one government job and then asked them to make something outside of that. Of course it's not going to fucking work one-to-one, you dipshit. What the fuck?
All of the things we use at all times are made by these strange things called corporations. Corporations are monarchies. Sometimes they're a diarchy in Silicon Valley, sometimes we'll do co-founders, but they are all monarchies. Capitalism is the system of little monarchies, little kingdoms that solve all these beautiful problems for us. If we look...
What problems do they fucking solve? Most of the time, these monarchies are run so fucking poorly that the government has to step in and tell you what to do. What the fuck? And by the way, it looks like Pixie bowed out before I did. I don't need a gummy for this.
For example, again, China. Strangely enough, China is also a monarchy under the beneficent leadership of its ruler, Xi Jinping. Not necessarily a huge Xi Jinping fan, but if you walk around New York City and you walk around Shanghai, you'll see some differences. For example, in Shanghai, you are about as likely to be attacked by a tiger as by another human being.
Yeah, because they have a fucking dictatorship. We have something called freedom. What the fuck? Early internet was made by the U.S. Department of Defense. Current was private. Still, the first one was. Look at that.
Not for the people. www was World Wide Web.
Yeah. But there's overlap. I'm going to take it as a win. I got fact checked in real time, guys. I still stand by my statement. The government started that shit.
In New York, that is not the case. And so what we see is that actually across, not only is this, the norm for all effective organizations.
So this is the reason why all these tech bros jumped on the dick of like Russia. And this is like what Tucker Carlson's been saying. He's like, yeah, dude, Russia's got like really clean streets and nice fucking supermarkets. It's like, okay, man.
Structures. Go to see a movie. It has a director. This is called auteur theory. What is auteur theory? It's monarchism. Go to a restaurant. A restaurant has a chef. Monarchism again. You'll find structures that are oligarchical in nature and collective decision-making.
How are you going to say there's structures in oligarchical in nature like that when like your entire party says the opposite, that these structures are built off of competency? You and Jordan Peterson need to have a conversation, sir. Hey, it's Blue MAGA. What's going on, baby?
In New York, that is not the case. And so what we see is that actually across, not only is this, the norm for all effective organizational structures. Go to see a movie. It has a director. This is called auteur theory. What is auteur theory?
Yeah, but there's someone above the director, dipshit. It's called the producer. The special money interest groups that tell what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones that dictate what goes on the screen, what actors do what. Like, at the end of the day, the director can be replaced by the producer. So, like, he's already wrong in his own breakdown of... Why are you laughing at me? Oh, no, I walked into something.
It's monarchism. Go to a restaurant. A restaurant has a chef. Monarchism again.
Chef is a monarchy? Like, there's a manager at the restaurant, dipshit. The chef doesn't do it. And like, it's not like the manager can dictate things. The manager probably has a district manager, and the district manager has a vice president, and the vice president is like a CEO. Or like, why are you giggling? Oh God, what am I walking into?
Find structures that are oligarchical in nature.
Are you saying that I'm proving his argument because it's going up a structure? But then at the end
Why
of
do you need to go in the other room?
No, you're just saying.
Nature and collective.
Does Kia mean DD that you'll flash for a free car? Will you flash for a free car? The camera's on, dude. This is a privileged white male. He might have the money to get you a car.
Decision-making structures are very unusual in human history, even in the history of government. Essentially, that monarchy is the norm is completely accepted up until 250 years ago. And so when we base...
Wait, yeah, of course it was accepted until 250 years ago because, like, we saw the problems with monarchy, so we created our system. Because the problem with monarchs is that when you want to overrule them, you have to fucking kill them. You don't have to, like, you can't just come out and be like, hey, man, we're going to vote you out of power.
Basically see, Hitler, tyranny, despotism, and so forth. The thing we have to bear in mind is that we are looking at monarchy in the age of democracy. And so the question is, what is going on?
Can't get you a car? Battle Pixie
On inside this 250-year bubble. That is this bubble of like very different ideas about government. When we look at this period, do we seem to see governments that work really, really well? Have we like found the mystery of that? I really don't think so. Actually, when we look at the...
What are you talking about? Just look at COVID for a perfect example of government doing well. And I hate to say it because it was a time when Donald Trump was in office. In 8 months, we made a vaccine to something that was killing a lot of people. We did that in 8 months through governments and private entities. These two things work together. I don't understand why these dipshits all come up with this new idea on how to run our country. Like, this is like they come up with these bullshit fucking ideas, and it's like, bro, we already have it. It fucking works. We could just improve the shit we have. Like, we don't have to rewrite the goddamn wheel. I'm sorry, I'm yelling. I apologize.
Technology available to governments today, and we look at what a poor job they do, and then we look...
What poor job do they do? Can you point to something, like, tangible, or are you...
Look at a pre-modern government which had 50th as many as employees per capita. We see...
Well, because the government fails because it has employees? It only works for Americans and we fuck the rest of the planet, that's why we're evil? Fuck the rest of the planet. America!
Actually, no, we don't seem to have discovered something new and more effective here. So how did we even get here? Like, what are we doing here? Because this is not normal.
Thank you, Curtis Yarvin.
It is normal, by the way. What a shitty opening statement.
Glenn, you are up next. You disagree. You believe the U.S. should not be ruled by a CEO dictator. Your chance to tell us why.
Thank you, John. Before we get started, I just want to express my gratitude to Open to Debate for putting together this really important exchange.
Excuse me. Why does this guy look like a fucking alien, dude? Is he like a robot they built in a fucking lab to come out here and look janky as fuck so this guy can get a free dub?
And I also have to admit to some trepidation to encountering Mr. Yarvin in person. I've long respected him as being one of the most influential figures of our time intellectually.
Why would you say that? Everything he just said was stupid as fuck.
Responsible as much as anyone for some of the challenges that we're facing. And, in the face of that fear, I have to say that the easy approach to confronting someone who is called for most Americans to be put in solitary confinement and for our billionaires to be expropriated would be moral scorn. But I think confronting it in that way would be a disservice to all the people who found his arguments so persuasive. And so instead, I want to meet him on the ground that he stands on, the grounds he just...
Exactly. You have to meet him where they're at, dude. Okay. This guy might have a pretty dope backbone.
Occupied of historical experience. because as an economist and political scientist, if there's anything that I've learned from study after study, it's how consistently democracies outperform autocracies, both on
True.
average and in the stability of the growth that they deliver. And it's been found to be causal. Transitioning to democracy increases income by 20% in the long run. And if we look beyond the average to the extreme cases, it becomes even clearer. Almost all of the miracles of the last century have occurred under relatively democratic systems with all their flaws against the backdrop of general tyranny. Places like Japan and India, Estonia and Ireland, Botswana and Mauritius. And even the exceptions that Mr. Yarvin loves to point to generally prove the rule. Places like Chile, China, and Singapore actually had their greatest success during periods of relative pluralism or as they transitioned towards democracy.
True. And capitalism. Capitalism has improved lives of many, many, many people.
Well, almost all of the greatest disasters of the last 100 years happened under iron dictatorships, places like Eritrea, North Korea, Iran, Afghanistan, and so on.
True. Every dictator thinks they're the ones that got it figured out, and they can't.
And if we look beyond the narrow field of economics, it becomes even clearer because even for their income levels, democracies dramatically outperform autocracies in extending human life, progressing science, preserving the peace, extending their own stability, protecting the environment, reducing social inequalities, and on and on and on. The past quarter millennium, the only broad and consistent period of improvements in living standards and reduction in violence in human history occurred as democracy spread around the world. Now, Mr. Yarvin will likely blame the failures of dictatorship on a poor choice of CEO or on too many checks on their power. But I think if recent experience and history teach us anything, it's how hard it is to find someone who absolute power does not absolutely corrupt. Take Elon Musk, for example. For years, Mr. Yarvin and the people around him have held him up as the perfect CEO monarch. And yet, given something like that opportunity earlier this year, he was so mired in personal distractions, amateurism, and administrative chaos that his own agency became something of a murderous clown show. And can we really blame that on too many checks and balances? Now, Mr. Yarvin held up corporations for you. And I respect corporations as well, but let's be clear. Unlike Mr. Yarvin, I've actually worked for the last decade for one of the most successful in history. And I can tell you that success at that scale does not come from an iron fist. It comes from multi-stakeholder feedback, transparency, and decentralization of power. So Mr. Yarvin is definitely right about one thing. Our democracies are in crisis. Their people are divided against themselves and have lost faith, and they're stuck in outmoded forms. That's why I've devoted my career to radically up.
That's also why it's really important. Like, all these businesses aren't successful because of one asshole at the top is making all these decisions. This is where I will agree with communist and dipshit takes like socialism. These businesses, I had to look at my girlfriend after I said that. Anyway, these individuals are the ones that prop up your business. They're the ones who do the work. Like, to take credit for all of the work that your employees have done is fucking scum fuckery. Like, the reason why kingdoms existed so well for as long as they did is because people believed in their king. They believed in the thing that they were working towards. Like, if we were to run a business or the world as a business or our country as a business, what are you going to do when you work at a place that makes you miserable, where you hate going into work every single day? Nah, man, that shit is awful. Like, and then nah, dude. And you have to take a look at it from like the top down, all right? So these people, essentially the CEOs, don't fucking do anything other than they make really impactful decisions for their company. And the decisions they have very heavy ramifications for not only themselves, their shareholders, and their employees. So their choices have to matter, and they have to be very cognitive of the choices they're making. A lot of them make bad choices. So then you have your CEO, and then what they do is they make all of these big hard choices that their team brings to them. Underneath them, you have like your vice presidents, your like your district managers, your HR department. All of these people facilitate certain different things, but all of these things prop up your business on they would not care about exactly. All these people prop up that business a layer lower. And this layer is like the administrative layer that does like all of the hiring, firing, interviews, does all of the processing, gets the paychecks out, all of this, like all of this little network of things is required for another layer below where the workers are. These are the people on the ground floor building your product, working on the cars, you know, stocking your shelves. All of these layers are required for that business to have any say in anything. The problem with what this dipshit, not this guy, but the other dude is talking about is he thinks because he's made a successful business that the people at the top can continue to emulate that in other forms. We saw this with Elon Musk. Elon Musk has built, 4 major successful businesses? And he thought, well, I could just go in and rework the government and like completely cut like Doge and all that shit. And then he gets in there and he doesn't do jack shit. And then he promised $2 trillion in cuts and we got 20 billion. We got less than 0.1% of what he promised. We call that an absolute and utter fucking failure. And he should never be able to say, well, I worked for the government as a bro, you failed on every metric. Like they actually prove that these guys shouldn't be running our countries because Elon Musk did so poorly that we now have an actual verifiable case study of someone coming from 5 successful businesses, stumbling into government and then fucking failing so miserably. And then at the end of it, we ended up passing a bill that like added another, $7 trillion to the debt. Not only did he failed by every abject measure of failure. He got 0.18% and that's a failure? Yes. Elon Musk completely failed. And he broke the law while doing it. 100%. 100%. That's why he wanted to go start his own party. That's why Doge is like investigating his ass right now. So yeah, dude, we should not have CEOs running our country. Fuck no.
Updating democracies for the digital age, and that effort is bearing fruit. In young and innovative democracies like Estonia and Taiwan, we see the adoption of digital technologies resulting in social cohesion, resilience against disasters like pandemics, and rapid economic growth. And more mature democracies like Japan, India, and Brazil are taking notice and showing us all how a mature adult deals with challenges, which is with humility, determination, and a growth mindset. Those are far better approaches for us to follow than the childish fantasy that if we just act out enough, Big Daddy will come and rescue us from all of our problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
He also did the Ronald Reagan thing that I do all the time. One of my favorite things to tell people is like, stop looking to the government to fix your problems. If you would just take stock of your own life, you would find that a lot of the problems you have in it are within your reach to fix. That's like, I took that directly from Ronald Reagan, dude. He's got a speech where he says, if we would just take inventory of our own lives. I'm like, God damn, how come politicians don't talk like this? Holy shit. Actual government is no. And leadership, question, how long did you run 53 million in 19 states with an annual revenue of 79% or with a 15% too? People don't want to participate in the problem? No. How long did you run? Why would I have to run a government to know that if you promise 2 trillion and you get 20 billion, that's a failure? Retire all government employees. Oh, see, I didn't even know that. Me, 37 years. Yeah, but that doesn't You're not disproving anything. At the end of the day, Elon Musk promised $2 trillion and he delivered $20 billion. Like, I don't know how, if like your wife said she's going to suck your dick and all she did was lick the tip, would you call that a blowjob? No. You are a lazy fuck that wants to do his own thing instead of like actively helping your community. Sure, man. I have run a business. That's crazy though. I've actually run 3 businesses very successfully too. That's how I know that when he made a promise like that, he absolutely failed. Yes. Dude, my growth was amazing at my last form of employment. We disagree. Yeah, you can be wrong, dude. It's okay. You know, I love you anyway, you know?
I just wanted to review what I think I've heard our 2 debaters say. Curtis Yarvin is arguing that U.S.
Oh my God, an actual moderator. This is still a lot of money and a lot of unemployed people, so happy less money. I dislike business runners that think it's an accomplishment, but it's actually just people with an IQ of about 100, exploiting people under 100. What are you talking about? Running a business is way harder than you give it credit for. Like, now you're going to make me go against your communist side after I just gave you kudos and your like some level of argumentation. Like, running a business is actually very difficult. Yeah, I'm not someone who says CEOs suck, Media Watch. I don't want them running my country. There's a difference here. I defend capitalism because I think capitalism is a good thing. What's up, Stuart? But I'm not someone who's going to sit here and say that like CEOs are, you know, happily equipped to be presidents. No. See, just because you can run a taco stand doesn't mean you should be CEO or a president. You know what I mean? What the fuck? I'm not attacking capitalism. I'm attacking this guy, Yarvin, Curtis Yarvin's idea that CEO should be the monarchy of our country. Running a business is less than Thales. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, dude. Running a business is actually very complicated because there's multifaceted ideas that you have to work through. Like, if you're running a business, you have to maintain employees' satisfaction, which means, I don't know if you've ever worked with anyone, but employees are some of the hardest people to fucking entertain in the world. And 90% of your job is actually trying to keep your technicians or your employees happy because they're the biggest babies on earth. And then on top of that, you have to maintain, you know, your customers. You have to make sure that your customers are satisfied with the product that you're putting out. You also have to set up like accounts and like business deals and trading programs. Like, it takes a shit ton. Lost to God is painfully a full-on capitalist. Rude. I know it's complicated, but there are levels to this shit. What are we watching? A debate between Curtis Yarvin and Glen Weyl or Well. I can't remember what they said his name was.
Government is working very, very poorly, that it's doing a poor job of delivering order and prosperity, that the mass mind, as he said, has lost touch with reality. And that reality, as he explains it, is that to get something done, you do need a central figure. He cites corporations that we're all familiar with as examples of where this...
They can do more than the average, so they think they're smart, but they're actually just above average. Being above average means you're smart, dipshit. What do you mean? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? If the average is like 90 to 100 and you're at 120, you know, you're above average. That would mean you were intelligent. Like, being in the top percentile means that, yeah, what the fuck? How are you so learned and yet so incapable of basic human emotions?
principle is in operation in ways that benefit society in terms of the products that they deliver that solve problems and also add to prosperity. Glen Weyl agrees that our democracy is in crisis, but he also says that by most metrics and by most examples, historically, democracies outperform autocracies economically and also socially. He says there's been a correlation over the last 250 years between the spread of democracies and human progress. And also he points out that the choice of some individual to have this sort of absolute power is not going to end well because power always corrupts. So we're going to have a discussion. As much as possible, I'd like to segment things into smaller chunks so we can take things piece by piece, so I'm asking for your permission to interrupt you. Wonderful. I also want to tell you our rules are no personal attacks,
What a trash debate. No personal attacks? I can't call you an unhinged, you know what?
Relentless repetition of talking points. Please stay on point and please listen to what each other is actually saying. And I will enforce those rules dictatorially.
Good to have a strong leader.
Yeah. And so the debate is conceded. Curtis, I want to come to you since Glenn was the last person to speak, but you're making a case for corporations as a model of how it works.
Man, I've never done one, but I guarantee you I'm going to be sub 80 IQ.
A lot of people would say that living in a society is not living in a corporation, that it's just a different animal. Your opponent also made the point that within a corporation he's worked in, that decision-making has often not been the result of a single strong leader. But if you can take that
first of all, Glenn has worked at Microsoft, which is what we call a big co. It's not exactly a startup. How much revenue have your efforts?
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. There's no way that he's going to be, well, I've done a startup, so I'm more successful.
Return to Microsoft, Glenn? How much money have you made for them?
I think the way...
Mr. Moldbug. What a fart.
No, please leave.
None of this
Leave.
should be up for
Leave.
debate.
Leave. Leave. Please leave. Leave. Please leave. Please leave. Get out. Get out. Please, you do not represent us. Please leave. We're here to have a civil debate.
You can still be intelligent, be humble like Ren, or have an ego of a small planet like Musk. Exactly, dude. I like this guy, dude. Someone started spouting off. Like, dude, his argument, like, dude, the question he asked was entirely in bad faith. Like, the audience had every right to rip that guy apart. Like, oh, how much money have you made Google? I've made money, this much money for my startups. Like, dude. Bro, what a fuck.
Get out.
This guy has like no back. Like, come on, dude. Why is it we can't have one media trained individual? Like, get out. Get out. Why is that a bad question? It's the purpose of doing business? No, it's not. It's a ridiculous gotcha bullshit question that's making an appeal to authority. You already know that that's going to fall within like two different fallacies. Like, one that has nothing to do with his like the debate. Two, it has nothing to do with either one of their arguments. And three, it's a useless fact that even if he didn't make Microsoft a lot of money, what's the purpose of doing business? What does that have to do with the conversation at hand, Media Watch? This is a conversation about whether or not a CEO should be dictator. Like, bro, that has nothing to do with the question. What's going on, Nikki? I'm actually okay with them talking down to this guy this way, though this is antithetical to good conversation.
All right.
Thank you, security.
Thank you.
Can you reset the clock a little bit for that?
Yeah. How much? We lost about 2.5 minutes, I think. Thank you very much.
It's good. No, I think we learned things.
Yeah, that you're probably a disgusting human and people are just calling you out for your bullshit. But yeah, I'd rather have a rich man in office over a poor man, which explains why every damn ends up rich after office. I don't give a fuck about their finances when they go into office, and I don't give a fuck about their finances when they leave office. I don't give a shit. I just care about how they run the country. I don't give a fuck about people's personal interest in their bank account. I don't give a shit. Yeah, what the fuck? Who cares?
Because that's sort of that's what's left of progressivism in America today, and
All right. We don't need to go down that path right now.
All right,
how much did you make for Microsoft was the question.
Yeah, so there's this interesting idea that I learned about when I was a kid called teamwork. And the idea of teamwork is that a bunch of different people play different roles, and that makes it hard to attribute things to individual performance.
So your lab is essentially kind of a, not exactly a cash cow for Microsoft. Like you're not under like revenue discipline.
What's your point though?
My point is that basically Microsoft at the scale that it's at actually acts a
So you don't really care about paying taxes? Why would I care about paying taxes? That's like the cost of doing business in America. If you make money, you pay taxes. Those taxes are then utilized in ways that hopefully benefit your the people of the country you live in. I don't mind paying taxes at all. Like in America, you had the freedom to live such a rich and full life that why would I complain about paying taxes? That's crazy. Like, you are given so many opportunities in America that you aren't afforded somewhere else. I would happily pay taxes. And a leader extorting will raise your taxes? Logic? No. Just because your taxes go up doesn't mean the leader's extorting those things. Sometimes a tax hike can happen because we're paying for more medical rights for our citizens. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with us spending, 7 cents a day to stop children dying in Africa? I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that, dude. I'm okay with my taxes.
lot more like a government. It's very unlike the Silicon Valley startup scene that is very competitive that I come from.
Okay.
Actually, Google has become very similar. It's a company with basically one sort of giant cash cow that is very reminiscent of like a tax flow. And so you're essentially running a research lab that is really not part of capitalism in any sense.
So I could see us spending a lot of time on this side of the conversation, and what I really wanted to get to in my question to Curtis was, is the body politic, is political society like a corporation, or are there differences? In other words, does the notion of a CEO and shareholders, et cetera, apply to governance of a nation?
I mean, I do not, think that there is a sharp or categorical distinction between these things. I think as things grow in size, as they grow in power, they become more and more like an organization that needs to be disciplined by democracy, multi-stakeholder feedback, et cetera. So I actually have no particular objection to running a debate with a strong leader, to running an early stage startup with a strong leader. All those things make sense. And in fact, many democratic theorists like John Dewey talk precisely about the necessity of doing that. The problem that they have is when something gets very big,
so like his argument shouldn't be against a strong leader. Like his argument is that even strong leaders need to be checked. Like that's why in America we have 3 branches of government, so that we can keep each other in check. Like there's nothing wrong with having a strong leader. Hell, we should optimize and always have a strong leader, or a leader that's best for the role that we're hiring them for. And this role, it would be president. So like, like a board of directors. Yeah, but that's a benefit of the board of directors, and that could be a pro-capitalism argument. Like the reason why like media organizations are good is because technically media organizations have shareholders and they have investors, they have producers. They also have media organizations that are supposed to want to do ad revenue with them and stuff like that, advertisements. Like all these things play into we can't piss off our advertisers, can't piss off our customers, we can't piss off our employees. All these things can lead to something. But that doesn't mean, no, we need a government to keep them in check too. A government is like the final say. Like, if we have a government, their whole entire job should be to protect the citizens. We allow corporations to build up businesses to employ these citizens so these citizens can afford their life, so the money isn't directly coming from the government. But the government needs to overstep, not overstep, but step in anytime that, there's a breach of, law. Or these people are just being blatantly taken advantage of. I was actually up at a decent time this morning, and then I laid on bed. Now it's 11:30. That's why you have 3 tiers, like you just said. Exactly. I'm arguing for capitalism and democracy, not against it, sir.
It's very hard for people to leave. When there are very few alternatives, it becomes very problematic to run it as a dictatorship.
How do you feel about Franklin Roosevelt?
I think there are good and bad things about Franklin Roosevelt. I mean, Franklin Roosevelt did some, things were generally positive contribution. I think he did some things that were really awful, and that the checks on his power that came both from the Supreme Court and from the Republican Party were critical to disciplining some of the worst, but not all of the worst. So, the internment of the Japanese that he did was a horrible thing that was not corrected by any of those institutions, and that's a stain on our country.
Well, I have a lot of criticisms of FDR, but I think it's hard to deny that this was a single individual running a very, very large organization. And I think that when you look at, there's a saying, essentially Microsoft is a corporation in essentially peacetime mode, and it can become more oligarchical. You sort of consistently confuse democracy with oligarchy, which is something I'd like to get into at a certain point. But, certainly that company was created by actually really 2 monarchs, Gates and Ballmer. And if you think of Steve Ballmer as having a collegial style, I don't know what to tell you, man. These...
Could I respond to that point?
Please.
Because as you may know, I joined Microsoft at the same time that Satya Nadella became president. And he was known specifically, became CEO, he was known specifically for having overcome a lot of the challenges that the company faced in the last decade because of exactly those issues. He made a center point of his time there, decentralization and cultural change to make sure that we included everyone. And since that time, Microsoft's value has increased. I don't know if anyone's tracking it. I haven't seen the latest number, something like 20 times. During the previous period, it was declined slightly. So, certainly I'm not saying that means Ballmer wasn't a great leader. He was in many ways. But there are many styles at a company, not all of which are dictatorship, that have had a lot of economic success.
Sure.
True.
But the thing is, if you compare the way Microsoft works to the way, say, the Department of State works or the Department of Energy works, you'll see that the level of oligarchy, even in a defense contractor, even in a nominally private company, the level of process and bureaucracy, if you compare Microsoft to a startup, Google today to a startup, it's like 10x the process, 10x the bureaucracy.
Yeah, because it's bigger. It's more people. There's more of a negative when things go wrong. More people lose their job. There's more on the line. So people are going to be way, way slower to act. Microsoft are stopping their... Microsoft increased based on monopolizing the industry worldwide. Yeah. But the point is that the president that oversaw that, or the person that was running the company that oversaw that, did so through collaboration, not by being an authoritative figure. So the whole thing is a CEO dictator. You don't I don't know why you would defend that, Media Watch. You wouldn't want to work for a dictator. What the fuck? You don't want to, you would probably want to work in a place where your ideas mattered. You know what I mean? Why would you defend the idea of a CEO dictator? Like, especially for our president. How do you overcome a CEO dictator?
You look at the federal government, you've got another 100x on top of that.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anywhere that operates without process. Having a dictator is a process. Having a, Microsoft, there's a process for everything. In other places, the question is, are they effective processes or are they failed processes? And I think it takes a process to beat a process.
Do you know that the concept of mission orders is used, for example, in the military? It's the idea that basically you shouldn't micromanage, that, this is a German, originally military concept. The captain says to the lieutenant, take that hill. He doesn't say how to take that hill. And I think that for people who haven't had direct contact with Washington, the level of distance in not just Washington, but any modern Western government.
I did. Our company promoted 90% up through ranks and 10% college recruiting. Jim Casey principal. Okay, but just because you're doing things internally doesn't mean that it's a dictatorship. What?
From that basic principle of operation is so far away that you can't even grasp it. This is why it is so inconceivable that the government of California could make an electric car.
I actually strongly agree with your point about delegation of authority, decentralization of power, giving people the ability to make decisions on things. That's why I'm a little bit confused by your proposal to put cryptographic locks on every gun of everyone in the military controlled directly by the CEO dictator. How does that give people the ability to achieve their mission without...
Hell yes, dude. He's read his underlying fucking Substack. Hell yeah. There we go.
Well, unless their mission is a military coup, Like what? Like this is used in nuclear weapons today. It's called a permissive action link. It was put in place so that...
Yeah, but it refutes your point. If you're saying take that hill, but you don't tell people how, like you're going to tell people to go to war, but like you're going to control how many bullets they can fire? Like what the fuck?
General Jack D. Ripper couldn't launch a nuclear strike on the Soviet Union by himself. And so, I don't think you disagree with the idea that the president is commander-in-chief of the military.
Curtis, again, drawing a distinction between corporation and the political society.
Let me answer that in more detail in a way, because let me get back to your original
Well, let me
point.
put it to you this way.
Yes.
In a corporation, the people are employees or they're customers. In our system, the people are voters. What do people in this, or what would people be socially in terms of their political power or aspirations under CEO dictator? Your plan is that there would be one election in which the president who says, I'm going to run for office, I'm going to be a dictator, you don't get to do anything else for another 4 years. I'm in charge. There won't be any more elections. There won't be any government that doesn't answer to me. There won't be any media that doesn't answer to me. There won't be any university that doesn't answer to me. What are the people in your vision?
The people in my vision actually have about the same amount of power that they have now, which is basically none. So if you look for...
The fuck is he talking about? Bro. We have power. What? Like what? Like how do they... This is what they do. They come out and tell you that you can't vote. Your vote doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Put me in charge.
For example, at the, I think one of the most consequential policies of our democracy is mass immigration. This population has, this policy has never been popular in any country. It is completely top-down driven, and people feel that they have no voice in it, and they're really entirely right. They actually have no voice in it. If you look at basically the way...
So then why is it Trump says he has a mandate if the voice of the people is irrelevant and people don't have power? Why is it that Trump is trying to use propaganda to spread his message now? Because he knows that if the people turn on him, he's fucked.
that public opinion works in our democracy, you see this sort of remarkable pattern in which public opinion is not a final cause as people want it to be.
So what is their status? Are they
They're
employees
subjects.
of the government?
They're subjects. They're subjects. This has been basically the principles of the law of nations have been well known for.
So we're just going to be subjects to this asshole or whatever CEO is in charge? What happens when a CEO dies? How do we replace the CEO of the company, the country? Do we still have elections, or does the dictator just name another person? Like, even if this, let's say that his system worked, like we just gave all of our control over to one really, really, really powerful businessman. What happens in 20 years when he dies? Does it go to his kids? Well, have you ever seen businesses? Like, the generational wealth typically fails within 3 to 4 generations because your kids just don't give a fuck about the stuff you care about. Your kid doesn't, like, even if you were the guy, even if you were George Washington, right? And you were a fucking great king, motherfucker, total badass, gave all the people what they wanted, eventually you're going to die. Who's to say your kid is going to be a good leader? What do we do? That's what I want. This motherfucker to answer this question. Jimmy Kill is a cis white dude, bro, who was famous for the Man Show, which main feature was women on trampolines. He's as left as my right hand. On top of that, the dude is on the left. He's further left than I am. Jimmy Kimmel is a hardcore lefty simp. Like, Jesus Christ, if he's not on the left, you'll never have any, like, again, no political power. People like you, Blue MAGA, no political power, dude. You're going to get nothing in this world accomplished ever because, like, even those on your team you don't consider on your team. Absolute insanity, dude. Like, the one we got to watch out for is Media Watch. She might be able to convince people to vote red. Like,
for thousands of years. They were only attempted to be revised, in the 18th century. They're subjects. As Charles I said, there's a clean difference between a subject and a sovereign. They're subjects. And the thing about...
I get your point that they would be subjects. I just want to take that for your response to that. Change in status that we would all become subjects, unless one of us gets to be the CEO.
It's actually the real status. It's just that we're pretending that
I hear you on that, but the pretense would end.
I just think it's important that we be clear about what it means to be a subject.
and on top of that, what the fuck is he talking about? He's saying he has no status currently. He's a multi-billionaire who's famous for giving his opinion to people. He's on this debate stage probably getting paid handsome money for his opinion.
Because in some, contexts, you're subject of the King of England, that you have all kinds of rights, Magna Carta, et cetera. Mr. Yarvin has repeatedly said that he believes anyone's wealth should be able to be expropriated if they are a concern to the, positions of the regime.
Fact check, is that correct?
No.
Okay.
So you wrote in, I'm happy to quote at length, I have your essay from March where you tried to clarify precisely your perspective about this, but you said that the billionaire's money was just on in a computer somewhere,
yes.
And that root access should be seized by the sovereign, and that it should be limited until it wasn't any concern for political dissent.
That's essentially, yes, of course, sovereignty is absolute. Sovereignty is absolute today. Essentially a court can issue an order saying you, the billionaire, don't have any money, anymore. You are a subject of that court. The idea that the law rules in some sense is the sort of 17th century British idea that is sort of really completely contrary to political science. Sovereignty is conserved. If the US Supreme Court says that you have to hang upside down by your feet from, this lighting, you're gonna have to do it. So everyone actually is a subject.
I don't think that's the case, but I just want to make clear.
Everyone actually is a subject.
I want to make clear just a few other aspects, because that's the billionaires. On the other side, he's said that that when this sovereign arrives, that they should round up anyone who's receiving government assistance and put them into solitary confinement
That
with a
is not-
virtual, simulation of social interaction, so that it can be determined whether they deserve to have
Just again,
a
fact check,
role in
as you're the
society.
source.
Yes.
I'm happy to read. I'm happy to read the quote if you'd like. I have a whole set of quotes on these matters here.
You may read your cat quotes if you like. What I would say is essentially.
Oh my God, dude, he's doing the same thing Brett Weinstein did. Why do dude, we just watched JD Vance do the same shit. When you like repeat the things they said to them, they get all butthurt as if like they didn't just say that shit. What the fuck is that? Trump does that all the time. Oh no, I see my girlfriend nodding. What'd I do? Oh no. My mother is really mad at me for falling back asleep. I'm going to head out for a while so I can smooth her feathers by kissing her behind.
Let me contextualize that, if you will. The way I
I
contextualize.
actually have quite a long context if you want. I don't believe in quoting people out of context, so I've preserved the whole thing, and you should all feel free to go and look it up.
We can hear it basically if there's time, but essentially what I'm saying, solitary confinement is a sort of strange way to put this.
Well, you're the one who used those words.
What I'm saying, no, I didn't mean solitary.
You literally used the word solitary.
I meant that for actual prisoners. No, what I meant is that basically there's. Go ahead. Do you want to?
Yeah, no, you did not use it for actual prisoners. You actually used it precisely.
Yes! I'm in love with this dorky looking bitch, dude. This white toast guy, dude. I kind of want to cuddle. I want to play with I want to run my fingers through the curls in his hair. What? Don't laugh at me. Yeah. Be safe, Nikki. We love you.
Go ahead.
I'm very happy to read this for you. So he says,
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm having terrible Brett Weinstein flashbacks when, what was his name? Sean read the opening page to his book on his debate during Pierce Morgan. Oh my God, dude. That shit was pornographic. It was so dope.
A large number of residents are effectively dependents of the state. For example, those who receive housing subsidies. These people need to be reprocessed to determine whether they can be members of a productive society. Establish relocation centers with a high degree of personal discipline. Modern technology can realize the ideal of 19th century penological reformers, universal solitary confinement. In the 21st century, adequate social interaction may be delivered electronically. Individualized cells.
Okay, I'm going to stop you because there's a lot there.
All right.
Oh, yeah, dude. He just put his dick on the table right here, dude. You know what I'm saying? Hell yeah, dude. Look at that smile. He knows what he just did. Look at this dork.
So yes, so specifically,
may you make very clear that it's not criminals. You said entire slums should be rounded up. And put into this.
The proper way to basically let's contextualize this for a moment. So basically, you go around the world and you see a lot of people living in extremely inhumane conditions. You don't disagree with that?
I would agree with that.
You would agree with that, right. And so the question of how a technological society can basically take these people and provide what is essentially a decent and human way of living is really, open to question, because our society has really not solved that. Is that correct? For like 6 billion people. So when we say, okay, how do human beings live?
Bitch, we're at 7 billion now.
Historically.
Just to be clear, this was your advocating for the United States and anyone receiving housing subsidies, not for...
Oh yeah, dude. Now he's got to run from it. Oh, because none of them believe what they say, and when they're on a stage, they have to hide their power levels. He's Hassan Pikering right now. Ah, yeah.
This is there's so many different kinds of people in the United States. But
also, you do talk in some of your writings about what should be done with third world people. You talk about Gaza and the notion that all aid should be cut off. So that's another example of how.
So
you might
let's address this question.
Now he's got to run from it, dude, and he's gonna say a bunch of filler words to buy him some time to try and think himself out of the situation. That's why let's address the situation at hand and talk about how we can contextualize. He's just buying time so he can plan an argument out.
of what you're going to do with people who are have essentially zero economic value to the rest of humanity. You agree that there's a lot of zero marginal product human beings in the world?
No.
You don't?
No.
You don't agree with the idea of zero marginal product?
What a good fuck no you don't. There are people that if you look at it just solely through a capitalistic lens that aren't producing, aren't producing, but that's okay because they're still spending. So they're still adding to like the wealth of your country because when they spend and buy things, it stimulates the economy. So by giving them a little, it can stimulate businesses around them and like, further like pay the people that work in these facilities. Like, all right.
I do not think that there are many zero marginal product people out there. I think there may be people put in social circumstances that make it harder for them to contribute productively to society.
But what should happen? Let's say they're there. What are you saying should happen to them?
So you've got, when you have people, what do people need? They need social community. They need basically to live in Dunbar number size groups, because this is our evolved evolutionary environment. They need society, they need purpose, they need meaning, they need work. These are the things that human beings essentially need. Do you disagree with me on that?
I mean, I might prioritize above that love, connection to
all these things, yes,
to the deity.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are all these things that people need. And the thing is that basically when you have the population of basically, a gigantic, slum in, say, Angola, and you're an advocate of mass migration, I believe. And so the idea that this is something that stays in Angola is not something you believe in. You don't believe that people's human rights as a human being should depend on the GPS coordinates where they were born, do you?
Well, the first thing I would say is I don't think this has anything to do with whether the U.S. should be ruled by a CEO dictator.
Can you answer the question? Do you believe that your human rights as a human being should depend on the GPS coordinates where you were born?
I think probably yes, because
Why?
I think that people are part of communities. And people.
That's not. This is.
Can you circle this directly to our?
What I'm saying is that this problem is worldwide. The problem of what to do with the slums of Kinshasa is worldwide. I don't see our present oligarchy solving this problem.
All right.
I just think it has to do with the role of the United States.
I think you've reached an impasse on that point. Or
He didn't say anything though. What the fuck was that? He didn't answer a question right there. What the fuck? Moderator, do your job. What the fuck?
Or you're doing
So
this. But let me bring this to you from the same article that your opponent is referring to. I found a phrase that I found interesting, and it leads to a question. You were talking about what happens in that first week after the monarch king is elected, and I'm quoting. Ideally, within a week, every law enforcement officer in America is wearing a red armband to show that he follows the new president's direct, unconditional command. To me, that implies the expectation that there would be resistance from the public to this agenda.
We've seen the resistance.
Why would he say red armband, dude? Doesn't that give it away? Like, is this guy just a Nazi? He did also quote a German guy earlier. Oh, no. Oh, no. J.D. Vance is a Nazi. We knew that.
Do you anticipate? Yeah, good point. Do you anticipate a smooth transition?
I think that Americans have been depoliticized to an astounding degree. I think if you look at the political intensity of the response to the first Trump administration and the second Trump administration, where the second Trump administration is doing, by my book, very little, but clearly like easily 10 times as much as the first Trump administration, the response from people like what we saw has been 10x less.
And you've also want to throw out the current U.S. legal system and fundamental.
I wonder if you'd say the same thing to the guy who shot a bullet into Charlie Kirk's throat. Just saying, like, we're having rising political tensions. I would say getting higher than of 2016 and onward. And we're finally seeing Democrats start to fight back, and that's only going to ratchet up more political tension. We have a government shutdown. What do you mean, dude? What do you mean, dude?
Mentally, functionally put all the lawyers out there who have gone to law school in the United States out of relevance because they won't know the system, the new system.
Couldn't hurt.
President is above the law. The monarch is above the law, just to be clear.
Right.
No, I prefer basically the system of Roman or civil law, essentially a Napoleonic code.
You want to abolish the media, shut down their servers. What would happen to a debate program, for example?
The debate program is just fine. I mean, the thing is that what we have.
Nah, motherfucker, you be shut down too. Chomsky once said that freedom of speech is allowed, or it's a requirement, unless it tears down the foundation that grants it its freedom, or something like that. Dude, give me some Chomsky, bro. That old fuck.
In the existing media is something that looks like a private institution, but enjoys many, many, many privileges of a government organization. So, for example, if you pick up a copy of the New York Times, you'll see, the
New York Times. Sorry.
People are always like, should Peter Thiel compete with the New York Times? I was talking once to SBF's girlfriend, and she was like, maybe he should buy the New York Times. And I'm like, if you buy the New York Times, it's completely useless. Because if you buy the New York Times, either you're sponsoring the New York Times the way Bezos is sponsoring the Post, or you're actually trying to mess with it and everyone will quit. And actually, if you look at the way the Times,
Wouldn't that mean that that's why we should keep it that way? Because, like, at the end of the day, that we don't actually get to influence the Times. Like, you just proved capitalism being good. Like, if you go in and try to, like, tell them what stories to do, the writers will just, the journalists just quit. They'll just leave, and then that'll lose its effectiveness anyway. Like, you just made an argument for why these systems should exist against your fucking leadership. That's exactly why they continue to exist, and why we should do them, and why we should move away from, like, independent influencers. We should move away from them because they don't have like a structure around them to keep them in check, like you would like at Fox News, or like, even though Fox News doesn't do their job, or like CNN or CBS. Like, at least these people have shareholders, they have producers, they have, special interest group, they have advertisers that all demand that they kind of like play ball a certain way. Like, You're proving your own argument wrong, dipshit.
by the way, is a fifth-generation hereditary monarchy. If you look at the way that the New York Times is connected...
I mean, you shouldn't assume I feel any way in particular about the New York Times, so...
I feel it's an amazing organization, but if you look at the, let me finish for a second.
Yeah.
If you look at the way the Times is connected to the U.S. government, you'll notice something astounding, which is that easily 2/3 of the stories in the New York Times on every day basically
Yarvin acknowledges if the wrong leader's in place, Hitler, Stalin could be created. Yeah, but see, Yarvin should acknowledge that no matter who you put in place, Hitler or Stalin will be created. If you give absolute power to someone, absolute power absolutely corrupts, dude. Like, if there's nothing to keep you in check, who's going to tell you no? You know what I mean? What the fuck?
contain information which is only available.
And again, this is also the same fucking dipshit brain poison that communists believe. They'll come out and be like, well, communism was never tried before. This guy's trying to say, well, fascism has never been tried before. Yes, they have. Multiple times, and everyone thinks they've got it figured out until they don't, and then millions of people die. Like, what the fuck?
To the New York Times. They essentially contain information that is stolen from the government, that is not released through ordinary channels, that is leaked. And everyone considers this an ordinary and regular way of doing business. In fact, it's a subsidy. And it's a subsidy that prevents anyone from competing with this agency. And if you basically called it an agency and you said...
anyone can compete with that agency. We have YouTubers that compete with that agency. What are you talking about? Hassan is bigger than that agency, and he reads Twitter.
Oh, this is actually part of the government. You'd be like, oh yeah, the Department of Information. It's the most powerful organization in Washington. And so abolishing that does not mean abolishing debates.
I mean, look, I think there's a lot of interesting things to discuss about the New York Times and the way the media works and how leaking in the government works. I think
He who makes himself a revolution, makes half a revolution, digs his own grave. CT, who's CT?
Yarvin. Sorry.
Oh, Yarvin? He said that?
Yeah. He was quoting somebody else, I think. I think it's an original quote. I can tell you.
is anything to do with whether one person should come in and control everything and stifle as much dissent as they feel like or don't feel like doing and put people in, you know, concentration camps. I mean, it just seems like those are very different questions. I mean,
really,
media reform is like an interesting question that we can debate. It's not the topic we're debating today.
How would you go about media reform? Because one of the things that you see in a lot of these different questions.
I mean, I can answer your question
yes, please,
if you'd like.
Well, you know what? I see your point. I see why you're making your case. You're making your case that all of these changes need to be made because there are so many disparate power centers that you feel, I think, are fundamentally corrupt, and you want to bring in one guy to clean it up and have absolute power for 4 years to do that. But your opponent made the point that anybody who gets absolute power is going to be corrupted anyway by it, that there's just something about human nature, you can't avoid it. Can you take that on?
That's a famous aphorism of Lord Acton. I don't believe in it at all. I don't see it apply how it applies to Frederick the Great, Elizabeth I. Actually, I think that the truth is very much the opposite, which is that it's actually partial power that corrupts. Because the thing is, when you have an actual chief executive who is aligned with the organization, he essentially has all of that power. He doesn't need to say, oh, I'm going to do something that's going to harm the organization in order to get more power. And so when you see basically a functioning nation state in the days before democracy.
We could fix this all if men weren't allowed to touch guns personally or professionally, and all women have guns. Now it would just be called sexism, buddy.
The king essentially looked, yes, he looked to Frederick the Great, absolutely, he wouldn't use the word CEO. He sees himself as the owner of the nation in a way. And when the king is the owner of the nation, the assets of the king are the land and the people.
Because you'd be infringing on people's rights. That's why we should care. Because I believe in individual autonomy.
Of the country and improving and maintaining those assets and making those assets flourish is essentially his role. If you look at the way basically the managers of China have gone about it,
I'm okay with that.
They say, how are we going to increase the market cap of China Inc.? Well, we're going to make our people much more educated and much more productive and much more industrious.
Nah, man, that's sexism. Nah, we don't participate in that. Guns for everyone or nobody.
And all of these things, if you look at the managers of the United States of America, they're not thinking that.
I want to make the point, Curtis, and I don't think that you've been doing this deliberately, but you've had a little bit more speaking time than your opponent. And that's okay, but I want to give you a shot of a couple minutes to go.
I just want to respond to that because, you know, you often make this argument that, you know, the CEO owns everything, so they kind of want to maximize the value, et cetera.
Their interests are aligned.
But the thing that confuses me about that is that I understand the notion that in a capitalist economy, many people are to a significant extent motivated by maximizing the value of their assets because they're a tiny part of a giant system. And so kind of almost anything they want, they could get that way. But once you're like really powerful, almost no one who's really wealthy spends most of their time trying to mostly maximize their wealth. They do all kinds of other things. I mean, for example, if you have unconstrained power, imagine you have a thing for kids.
Men do the raping and most of the bullshit. So? They are the problem? No. What a childish view on the world. What a childish view on the world.
That's just your inclination, right? So how many kids should you be allowed to make your personal
How many cases of that in 2,000 years of European history in, hundreds of kings have you seen?
Why the fuck would we care? All of these kings and countries couldn't do shit until America started doing its shit. Like, once after the World War II, America literally kicked things into high gear and fucking pulled so many countries into like the modern age. Why the fuck do we care about any of the dipshit assholes from 2,000 years ago in a country that we bested just, you know, casually? We got Lou, who managed to beat Nikki last night, and then we got Ricardo. Dude, Ricardo, it's been a minute. I feel like I haven't been seeing your name pop up. I've been missing my boy, Ricardo.
Because all of your examples of bad monarchs are all drawn from inside this democratic bubble. And I'd like to answer another point that you made there, which is why do autocracies, not thrive and democracies
I just want to
thrive?
answer your question. You're asking me a question and interrupting the limited time that I've had, and I'm interested in understanding, like, about 75% of emperors of Rome, for example, died not of natural causes. So that's interesting. It's interesting, and there's all kinds of colorful tales about them. There was this monarch I remember in England who beheaded some people, and then got married to some, and then actually made everyone at gunpoint change their own religion, so he could do that. And it's like,
yes.
President Obama didn't exactly do that during his time.
No,
so,
but our oligarchy is so powerful that it makes people change the words that they used. Do you capitalize the word black? When you write the word black, do you capitalize it? Do you say African American or black?
I generally say black. I don't really think about that.
Do you capitalize it? Do you capitalize it?
No. What does this have to?
Wait, what the fuck? Oh, these oligarchs are so powerful. They're affecting language. What kind of dog shit? Dude, time affects language. You said shit differently in the 70s than you do today. They used to say the word booyah in the 90s. Booyah! Language naturally evolves over time through culture, through significance, through memes, through not just the oligarchs. Like, what the
Do you remember?
Wait. Seriously.
Let me answer your question.
Okay.
Do you remember being told by power to change the way? My point is, if a monarch.
Dude, he's dumbfounded. They had dude, this was a planned debate to make this guy look fucking unhinged, and our boys hamming it up right now.
Monarch had told you, rather than the New York Times telling you to capitalize the B in black.
I need the ability to cut off my head. I wouldn't do that. And that's why I don't adopt all the trends in linguistic stuff, and I'm happy to do that or not do that.
And I'm glad there's
And it's always the choice. You know what's not a choice, by the way? If you had a monarch that was like, nah, dude, you're just doing this. You don't get an opinion. Fuck you.
Someone who doesn't want to execute me for my choices.
No, they wouldn't execute you. They just end your career. And they just end your career. And how many times have you made a choice under the pressure of this oligarchy to not say what you think? How many times have you chosen?
When we don't have a lot of racist thoughts, not often. I've never gone around going, I just want to talk about the blacks. Like, it's never come up in my life. What do you mean? I say what I think regardless. Oh yeah, dude. I need the cursor trails. I get so baked I lose this motherfucker. Sorry.
Oh, I shouldn't see that.
Well, I'll give you a good example. I had a position on immigration that you were referring to earlier, which I've actually changed my mind on some. And I went through a lot of heat. And yeah, that wasn't the most fun experience of my life, but I learned some things from it. Didn't end my career. I didn't lose my job. I've gone on to all sorts of other things. I've met different people. That's the great thing about a pluralistic society. There's all these different little elements. And I'm really glad there isn't one person in charge that if I cross them in some minor way, can say off with my head as you're.
Look, another way you can break down this argument is I've worked for a handful of companies in my time. And a lot of people will tell you family-owned companies are the best companies. And they do typically treat you better. They do typically, like, you know, treat you better. They do typically pay a little better. But the problem with a family-owned company versus a big corporation is that family-owned companies, all you have to do is piss off the family and you don't have a job anymore. Like, I felt like I spent my entire life walking on eggshells, knowing that if I didn't laugh at my boss's joke, because he's the son of, like, the owner of the company, that it could negatively impact my ability to do my job. Like, corporations, they have HR departments and, like, people that have no idea who the fuck you are. And they're like, well, now you need 10 write-ups and you need this and this. And it's like, yeah, it sucks when you're the manager dealing with all that shit. But as the employee, that shit is awesome, dude. There's all these safety networks because the company's just trying to not get sued. Now, if you, like, work in a company or in a state that's, like, owned in, like, Ohio, where it's a work at will state where they can just let you go for any reason whatsoever, as long as it's not, like, you know, racism or bigotry or something like that. They could just look over you in a minute. Like, working for, like, a family-owned company is the most dangerous thing in the fucking world, because, like, all it takes is one bad taste in that guy's mouth, and then, like, your entirety of that company can just be gone, just wiped away. Just walk and be like, you're fired. Why? I like the way you argued with me yesterday. It's like, what? Well, you shouldn't say that we want to kill all the Jews and or whatever, dude. Like, bro, some of these family-owned businesses are fucking crazy. I worked at one, dude, called Brownie's Automotive. Bro, one, they openly lied to their employees and the customers. They were also, like, this far right-wing group of people, but, like, half of the employees were illegal immigrants. So, like, they didn't even, like, practice what they preach. Like, they were just hypocrites. Like, they go around and be like, MAGA this, and we need to we need to deport all the illegals, donate. But then, like, you find that they got, like, 4 Juans working in the back, and you're like, why are you, like, you go around talking all this shit, but you're, like, literally paying illegals to do the job, taking away from Americans. Like, what? Bro, all I know is, like, the son got, like, the district manager job over, like, the guy who'd been working there for, like, 20 years. Bro, that company was running like shit. And, like, they'd be like, oh, come on by. We'll do a free quality inspection. We'll take a look at test drive your vehicle, and then we'll let you know what it needs. Bro, if you dropped it off and the thing had any noise in it, they would just quote you a transmission like a day later. They wouldn't even drive it. They wouldn't test anything. They wouldn't even take a look at the fluid. They would just sell you a full rebuilt transmission. And they'd always start up like, well, technically we have to take the transmission down, so I need you to approve 6 hours of labor. And then once we have it open, we'll be able to tell you what it is. They already know. They've already got the estimate built. They just lie to you and then waste your time. Because, like, they're buying time from a job that they were trying to finish before. They were always, like, way behind on time, and they would just lie to people. And, like, dude, we would have cars there for weeks, months, until they get worked on. It was disgusting. And also, they lied about their warranty all the time. There was no, like, universal warranty. All the warranty directly came from each manager. Like, dude, it was gross. That company was nasty. I worked there for, like, 4 months as a roaming manager, working at each store, and each store was dog shit. Brownie's Automotive, man. Dog shit company run by dog shit people.
You know, you relish saying that you know.
Strangely enough, there isn't one person in charge, and yet the level of freedom that we have in this country is much lower than the level of freedom under Frederick the Great.
What the fuck are you talking about? You literally go on stage and talk about Nazi propaganda bullshit, and you're perfectly fine walking down our streets. You are a super rich individual that can do anything you want in America. There's no one stopping you from being free. You are a LARPing dipshit motherfucker that is lying through his teeth so you can push your own political agenda because you think that you're going to be the guy they pick. Holy fuck, dude.
Whose motto was, they say what they want, I do what I want.
I mean, look, I don't know about making comparisons to periods that were massively before we had any, you know, digital technology, et cetera.
Why does digital technology change?
Very complicated.
Why does digital
industrial technology? Because it
completely changed and manipulated the way that we live our lives. It changed the access to information. It changed everything. These people couldn't fucking read. Oh, they woke up and worked on farms all day. That's all they did. Yeah, they had freedom, the freedom to fucking go work, or else they were gonna go hungry. What the fuck?
Changes what can be monitored by a monarch. It totally changes what's observable.
Curtis,
But
the statement we often hear, nobody should be above the law, the president should not be above the law.
True.
Your take on that?
So when you basically say, when Charles I acknowledged that he was not above the law, he was shortly to lose his head. And if you essentially look at pre-Anglo-American jurisprudence, you very clearly see what's called the royal prerogative in English history, which Carl Schmitt called the exception. And the exception essentially says that if the king is not above the law is above the king. And the law does not rule. Law cannot rule. People rule. And
Law is force. So in some small way, to some capacity, yes, it rules. Like, what the fuck? The people enact the law or the force, but it's the law that rules. Like, our country is governed by our Constitution, and our president isn't allowed to operate outside of its parameters. So he's just wrong here.
And what you said when you said, okay, the law is above the king, you said, no, you're actually saying these judges are above the king. And you're creating a situation that classical political science called imperium and in imperio, namely the conflicting rule. You've created an instability, and that instability is going to lead to the victory of one side or another, or in this case, civil war.
What you're calling instability, I believe you used the phrase in the beginning, checks and balances.
I would call it even adaptability. Look, there's a hypothesis that's very interesting that Mr. Yarvin puts forward often, that you kind of carve things up, you have absolute dictators over everything, and then there's no violence. And we've tried this. I mean, there's historical experience with this. In the 19th century, there was Metternich, and he did all this balance of power, and et cetera. And just like, it's very, very clear that we've had massive, massive reduction in death since that period. I mean, is it like...
That's right. That's
because... from violence of that
deaths
kind.
and violence in the 20th century were the highest ever. And I know you blame that on your enemies,
even taking into account all of those things, there were first of all, there's massive technology that enabled more extermination. But you attributed many things to technology, but still, even putting that aside, still massively fewer violent.
He would like to tear down the Constitution while removing democracy. All these small cuts to this year.
What's the saying about cuts? Death by a...
Oh, 1,000 cuts, yeah.
More deaths in the 20th century than
in the 20th century? World War I, World War II? What? You compare that to the cabinet wars of the 18th century? Compare the 18th century to the 20th.
Wait, hold on. If we're comparing like the 18th century, like, bro, there was a lot more death back in the day. World War was like some pretty crazy shit, but like, bro, let's start talking about the Crusades, bro. Like,
century, you're telling me.
Certainly after, the end of World War II,
after the end of
the most democratic period in history.
Well, conquering the entire world will do that. Conquering the entire world basically gives you world peace.
I thought we had a rival during much of the 20th century.
Well, we had the Soviet Union, which was, in a way, part of our empire and was certainly part of our alliance that conquered the world in 1945.
That's an interesting interpretation.
That we were allied with the Soviet Union? That's an interesting interpretation.
That we were allied with the Soviet Union after 1945?
No, I didn't say after 1945.
We had a common goal because Hitler was invading Russia and like everything. We weren't allied with them, but we worked with them on this particular thing. And then after that, we went to war with them. Like, what the fuck, dude? What does that prove?
Said in 1945. And so essentially, like, our relationship with the Soviet Union was not like our relationship with Nazi Germany. Like, you know, I
Well,
don't.
the Soviet Union
All right.
didn't actually try to
We're again exploring.
In any case,
we're again exploring different threads, and
Let me make the very, very
No, I'm sorry. We need to take a break because of time. It's now time to take some questions from the audience. And if you remember, I had mentioned our protocols for asking questions. Thanks for bringing up the lights. I see somebody in the very far back row. I'm looking at you. If you could stand up, and we'd appreciate it if you would tell us your name and come out to the aisle so that the mic can be held in front of you, but not placed in your hand.
Hi, my name is Connor. I think that we have an interesting kind of case study today for Mr. Yarvin's ideas in Bukele's El Salvador. And
Ooh.
I'm curious to hear what you would think about how, you know, by transitioning into what is functionally a monarchy, their quality of life seems to have improved substantially as a direct consequence of that. And if that has any bearing on your thoughts on the, I guess, the broader topic of debate.
Is that for, is that for him?
Yeah, it's a good question. Nayib Bukele has dramatically reduced violence in El Salvador, and that's been an incredible boon to the people there. Exactly how that happened and in what way and for what reason is something that our understanding of is evolving a lot. There has been a lot of evidence coming out that the U.S. intelligence services believe that he made a deal with many of the gangs there, and what that ended up implying and what the people got. It's a very complicated situation. I think that Bukele is not anywhere near the kind of iron dictator that Mr. Yarvin is advocating. And I think there are certainly examples of countries that at least temporarily have had improvements in conditions through having a dictator. It's very rare. There are many, 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 many.
But also, like, we might be doing good now, but right now the people are happy. What happens when they're not happy and working with the dictator? That's when things change. We're looking at, like, we got to look at the scope of, like, the entirety of his dictatorship or his presidency or whatever the fuck we're going to call it. Like, right now it's good, you know. At one point, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp had a really beautiful relationship. And then eventually she shit on the bed. Like, what the fuck? Like, every relationship has good points. That doesn't mean that they're all successful. Like, what a ridiculous question, honestly.
Many more examples of ones that have had total disasters, but there are certainly examples that have gotten better. Chile is a great example. They had a elected Marxist government, and they had a dictator temporarily, and it ended up leading. They transitioned back to democracy to better conditions. Bukele's had a lot of troubles economically, so I think it's a mixed story. I don't think one has to believe that every case has ever been bad in order to think that on average and in the distribution, democratic systems dramatically outperform.
Which is your argument, on the whole. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to let you respond.
Also, you have to be outcome Johnny Depp fitness video, Pirates, Pilates of the Caribbean. And also, you have to be outcome determinative. Like, just because, something sounds bad on paper doesn't mean it's going to be bad. They still had elections in 2024? Nice. Fact checks. What was I about to say? Just because something sounds bad on paper doesn't necessarily mean it is bad. Like, I bet you there are dictatorships that have done good things at the time that they're founded, but it doesn't necessarily mean like I would imagine the people of Germany really liked what Hitler was putting out. You know what I mean? And it did work out for them for a little bit of time, and then it didn't. Very quickly, it didn't.
I think what's remarkable about Bukele is basically how little resistance he's experienced from the U.S. government. Because I think that, when you basically cherry pick your examples of monarchies from the last 250 years, you're basically dealing with these autocracies are all enemies of the United States and Great Britain. And so actually living in a unipolar order where you're essentially a rebel against that order from Bukele to, the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, which Gladstone called the negation of God. I think what's remarkable about Bukele is that he's basically...
Oh, they have press censorship. Okay. That same thing that happens in Russia. Yeah. I said that. I tried telling my girlfriend last night that Russia has a masquerading democracy, and she looked at me like I was the devil. And I was like, I didn't say it was a democracy. I said it masquerades as a democracy. But that qualifier wasn't enough, I suppose. I love you. She's not talking to me. Okay, I'm sorry. I must have said something wrong.
Basically thumbed his nose at the United States. And that's worked, and that's allowed him to be an effective dictator. Another great example of that, of course, is Kagame in Rwanda, who we've allowed to govern the country out of sheer guilt from permitting that genocide. And again, I think the record shows that when you remove this factor of the US trying to destroy these evil autocracies in its global democratic jihad, they actually do quite well. And I think that that's the factor that explains...
Never forget that I've said this numerous times. You take the person on the far right and the person on the far left, and they talk very similar. They just have different targets.
The poor performance of autocracies since Waterloo.
Another question?
Well, I just want to, can I respond to
Please,
that?
yes, while I get
the next
because
question lined up.
I think there are many dictatorships that were actually sponsored and in many cases put in power by the United States that had equally disastrous outcomes in Central America, in South America. My wife actually happens to be an expert on these things. So I think there are definitely dictatorships that are maybe even worse that the U.S. opposed, and because on the average, I think U.S. takes the right side in conflicts on average, but not always, but more often than not.
Give me an example.
I'm gonna move on because of the sake of questions.
Contras.
If you could stand up and tell us your name, please. Thanks.
Pooja Olhaver. Mr. Yarvin, is there any part of the Bill of Rights you think is worth preserving?
Is there any part of the Bill of Rights that I think is worth preserving?
I was going to say wrong, but you're right. Our last government wanted to send failed asylum seekers to Rwanda, but it got blocked by the courts. That's crazy. What?
I think the Bill of Rights is a very good set of principles for good governance in a lot of different ways. I think that essentially, unfortunately, we're in a world where the judiciary and the legislative are essentially at war against the executive principle, and unfortunately...
Are they at war with the executive principle, or are they just holding up the Constitution? Probably the Constitution thing.
The way that that's been interpreted is kind of sort of all or nothing in an increasing way.
Wrong.
And so I don't know if you mean, for example, the kind of the 14th Amendment incorporation of the Bill of Rights to the states. Would you include that? I think that the whole situation of essentially trusting the courts to be apolitical actors is completely over. As Justice Sotomayor said, appeals courts are where policy is set. These are the most undemocratic elements of our society, and that's the way our government works now.
So your answer is no?
My answer is the whole system of rule of law is an anachronism.
So it's not just the Bill of Rights, but the entirety of law that should be
Yes, I think that actually the idea of law, because our judiciary has become so completely politicized, they have called the entire question of the rule of law into question.
Final thought on this point?
What the fuck?
No, I mean, look, I think I'm glad that he's clear about what he believes.
Okay, I just want to say, I want to say one thing. That question was fantastic in that it was like one sentence and it got us to a really interesting place. That's the model for how to do this. So thank you so much for doing it that way. Right in the center there.
Yeah, fuck the guy who asked the first question, bitch. No.
The mic's going to come to you if you could stand up.
My name is Don.
What's up, Don?
Question to both.
Oh my God, he looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter. Look at this guy's afro. Is this Donald Trump hiding in the audience? Like, look at that hair. Sorry.
My name is Don. Question to both of you.
Could you be a little louder, please?
A question to both of you. My name is Don. Do we live in a democracy or an autocracy?
We live absolutely in an autocracy because it's not an autocracy in the sense of a monarchy, it's an oligarchy. It's one of the three Aristotelian forms of government. And essentially, until the Trump administration, and this is mostly even true of the Trump administration, the effect of voters on the actual operations of Washington is essentially minimal.
True.
It has been minimal for many.
He does just want to make all the laws himself and not have anyone else throw that out. Sorry, I didn't listen to what this dipshit said.
Even true of the Trump administration, the effect of voters on the actual operations of Washington is essentially minimal and has been minimal for many, many years. And so
Shut the fuck. I cannot stand these dipshits, dude. When we put Biden in office, he did so many things that helped our country. And the recovery of our country was phenomenal because of it. Like, everything that we do has influence, from the things that we spend our money on, to the people that we elect, to the people that we spend our time watching and we spend our time on. Like, this guy is, I hate these people, man. They come out and say, nothing matters. I'm just a guy. I just do this. Like, you hear this from Hassan. You hear this from Emma Vigland. I'm just a YouTuber, bro. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. You can make impactful change, especially on a local level, very easily. These people are just selling you lies so that you back their shit. He just wants more power and he just wants more capital gains. That's all he wants. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. He just wants more gains.
I would say, yes, we live in an oligarchy.
Look, I think a lot of the ways we talk about democracy do a real disservice to the idea. We get these things like, this is a total democracy. This is like imperfect democracy. I think that maybe the US is like a 0.01% democracy, and like other places are 0.00001% democracy. I mean, democracy isn't ideal. It is like it's an aspiration. It's like,
You're just a consumer?
Can we go, fast? Well, we can't.
I don't produce any money anymore. She's right. I just consume. What? She's the breadwinner of the house.
That's what Yarvin calls all people in America.
I know. I was just being a dork. And no, he called them subjects.
Well, in his book, he calls them consumers.
Go the speed of light. We can't even go close to the speed of light, but we can go a little bit faster than we used to be able to go, and that's how I think about democracy.
It's sort of the same way the Soviets thought about communism.
I'm sorry that I can't see everybody. I'm helping a little bit. Right down front, because you're near the front. Yes. And the mic's coming to you. If you could go to the aisle to your left. That's a lot of climbing over people. Sorry. Is there a raised hand over there? Okay.
Hi, I'm Dylan. This is a question for Mr. Yarvin. So I'm building off of your earlier, you earlier brought up the companies Google and Microsoft as these sort of degenerated, one might say, forms of bureaucratic centralism. And I thought, in opposition to bureaucratic centralism, we might say a Trotskyist would believe in permanent revolution. And how do you approach the notion of absolute power without falling into this degenerated form of bureaucratic centralism? Like, how is it possible?
Because typically once you this is like my biggest problem with libertarians or anarchists. Like, let's get rid of all the laws. And you're like, okay. Let's get rid of the government. And you're like, all right, cool. And then you give them power and they're like, okay, well, what do you want to do? They're like, fuck, I don't know anything about education. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to find someone who knows something about education. I'm going to put them in charge of education. You're like, fuck yeah, dude, okay. And then another guy's like, oh man, I don't know. What do you know about military? He's like, I don't know shit about military. Okay, we're going to go hire some generals and they'll run our military. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. They're like, okay, well, What are we going to do about like our medical needs? Well, the guy that started the revolution doesn't know anything about being a doctor. So you're like, okay, well, we're going to make a board of doctors or something. We're going to put a doctor that runs like the entire board of like, health, safe and health. Wait, it's called health and safety. They're going to run our health and safety department. And you're like, yeah, cool. So you're going to hire like a bunch of like people to run departments to like spearhead initiatives that you think are going to be really good for the people that live inside your country. Like, yeah, dude. So a government. No. Okay, well, how are you going to fund that government? Fuck. We need money. Well, how do you make money? Fuck. Okay, we're going to tax the people. And then you just rebuilt America. Like, nothing changed. They're just going to rebuild the laws. It's going to get super bureaucratic. It's going to get a bunch of red tape. It's going to build up, and then it's going to become the same thing that it is now. Who needs health experts when you got Trump? Exactly, dude. But I'm afraid to take Tylenol. It might make me autistic. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
For you to, on the one hand, maintain this stasis in form, while at the same time retaining the energy of a startup?
Yeah, excellent question. I think that everything in human affairs needs to be under tension, and that's why I'd be, I think, a little bit disturbed by even the best design for a polity becoming global. I think actually history shows that the most sort of generative times in human history have been periods of small competing city-states, the Italian Renaissance, the Mediterranean before the Roman Empire. And so I think that that is one force that basically provides discipline and control. I'm also basically not a believer in totally absolute monarchies. I'm a believer in what I call accountable monarchies, which is, again, exactly what you get with a modern corporation and its board of directors and shareholders. Or even what you get in the New York Times and its...
I want to slap him so hard. Can I increase the speed of this so I don't die?
Class A shares controlled by descendants of the Sulzberger family, or even the Saudi monarchy and, the descendants of Ibn Saud. Those have proven to be very, very effective systems.
I guess my biggest question about that would be, you describe the notion of like some kind of election after some period, and then I guess my question is, how do you organize a free and fair election if you've eliminated all dissent, destroyed all civil society, and eliminated all media?
So, a good question. How do you organize a free and fair election in 2020 when you can't even report on, Hunter Biden's laptop? I mean,
Oh my fucking God. They did report on it. They took down the story for one day. And who was the president at the time? Donald Trump. Oh my God. Okay.
We already have this. There's no world with a fair and independent press.
What do you mean by
such
free?
A thing
What
has
do you
never,
mean by free and fair election?
Such a thing has never existed. Well,
you used that word in you said free and fair election.
Yes, and I believe that essentially.
He looks so nervous now. What, are you about to say that Trump didn't win the 2020 election? Are you about to say that?
Every form of democracy in the modern world is a managed democracy. I believe that autocracies like Putin's, they still have elections in Russia. That's a managed democracy.
So you consider that a free and fair election?
No, I believe it's a managed democracy, but it's also a free and fair election. People are voting,
Now I know why she's giggling at me, because we literally talked about this yesterday. Unprovoked, by the way. I brought it up. That's wild, dude. As she was listening to it. That's crazy. Serendipity.
Essentially,
okay, so that's what you mean by free and fair election.
There has never been an unmanaged democracy.
No, that's really helpful.
There has never been an unmanaged democracy. If you read, basically, for example, Walter Lippmann's Public Opinion, like, my God, the things they did in the 30s for an election. Americans voted for president not knowing that FDR used a wheelchair. They voted in 1940 for Wilkie versus Roosevelt. Wilkie had been a Democrat until 6 months before the election. Right, and so what is this free and fair election? I know of no such thing. Actually,
but you use that word as what the monarch would suggest.
So the thing is, that is one of many imperfect ways of basically creating an
But just to be
accountability
clear,
system for a
you
monarchy.
think all the media and all major political civil society organizations, including political parties, can be eliminated and we can still have a free and fair election?
Yes, because today those structures are all completely synoptic. They all speak with entirely one voice. They are all.
Oh my God.
USAID, is that what it's called?
Yeah, USA.
He's the one who said they should get rid of it.
He wanted to get rid of USAID? What a fucking...
They did it, so.
What a dipshit. If you stand against Putin in Russia, stay away from hotel windows. Exactly, dude.
Within one
No, it's just good to get clarification.
They are all within one echo chamber.
I'm gonna go to another question. I kind of wish the protesters had stayed to ask a question rather than the thing. I can't see. Are there any women raising hands? Because yeah. Yeah, challenging question these days. Sir, I was calling on you, but somebody else. Yeah, okay, go ahead. If you could stand up. What's your name, please?
I hope to God they call on a guy in a wheelchair and he's like, please stand up. And the guy's like, bro, I can't. I've been trying to stand for years.
My name is Nidal. Okay. So as someone with a little bit of computer background, just like you guys, my question is pretty simple. It's about this notion of scale. So for you, do you think there is...
You're pointing to Curtis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think there is any like number or scale at which dictatorship would work? Like, can we have a galactic dictator residing over like 10 trillion people? And for the other side, do you think there's some notion of scale at which dictatorship will work? For example,
we get the question mark, and that's a good question, actually.
I don't think there's any level at which hierarchical organizations fail to scale. When we look at Apple, what's it, 60,000 employees, 80,000 employees, Microsoft, similar, Google, similar, Elon Musk and his various corporations probably has 50, 100,000 employees. That's more than enough to govern the world. That's more than enough to govern the world, right? We have a lot more people in government today, but that's because our governments are so terrible and inefficient. If you look at the ratios of civil service employees.
The reason why we have more departments is because we find that it's more efficient to deviate different work tasks to different people. The more people that you hire in for your departments, typically the better they run. What?
To people governed, the best ratios are probably under the Indian Raj. The Indian civil service governed hundreds of millions of people with like 2,000, 3,000 Englishmen, something like that. So yeah, actually, I believe these systems don't have any trouble in scaling.
So you got the opposite question. Is there a scale? Is there a scale on the opposite end? I don't know, commune, something like that, where somebody could have sole authority over the decisions.
I mean, look, I have no problem at small scales with organizations that have strong and narrow leadership, because there's a lot of opportunity to lead. Now, if you have absolute control over those people, that becomes slavery.
True.
And I don't believe in that. I don't believe in having...
True. The reason why it's okay for businesses to be somewhat authoritative is because you can always just quit. Like, if your boss is a fucking total dick, you're like, okay, it's not going to work here. I'm opting into this. This is a contract, a social contract that I get to opt out of if you go super fucking dick mode. Like, if you're at my desk or my door every day when I'm coming to work or whatever, if I meet you at my front door when I'm unlocking my shop every day to make sure I'm there on time, I'm not going to keep working there. Like, I'll be there on time, but the fact that you have to, like, be up my ass to just double check my shit, fuck you. Go find someone else to be your punching bag. I'm not going to step up to that. What the fuck? Which I need to be careful, because in this town there's only like 2 shops, so yeah, I need to... Gonna have to adjust my view of people.
one person be able to like cut off the heads of anyone, in some organization that they're in. But if they have a limited scope where they're allowed to like manage the production of something or whatever, absolutely.
Who enforces those limits?
The government.
Law. And who law. And how does that work?
It means that people have a general understanding of a set of moral principles that, this is what Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote about the common law. The common law, which is the opposite of the civil law, and I think is one of the things that's made the US such a successful polity, as well as the UK, is based on the principle of what a jury would say, more or less.
See, this is what I was telling Ethopi. Ethopi will just go like, you haven't read Marx. And I'm like, okay, well then break it down for me. What are you trying to say? You need to go read Marx. It's like, no, dude, if you've read it and you understand it, you should be able to like relay that information. This guy just did that. He's relaying information from a thing that he read, and he's talking about common law and how it works against civil law because he understands the product of what he read. And he's got a good enough command of it that he can utilize that in a debate topic.
Successful
Reading things means nothing if you don't know how to apply it.
polity, as well as the UK, is based on the principle of what a jury would say, more or less. It's like, what is the common understanding of something? And yeah, the judges play a role, but juries are, I think, ultimately more important.
Have you ever been on a jury?
Yes.
I have twice, actually. It was a crazy experience. Have you ever been involved in a lawsuit, a legal proceeding, anything like that?
Once, yeah.
Was your experience that you had a very efficient and effective legal system?
I don't think the question is one of efficiency.
I think it's a reasonable, I think it's quite a reasonable question. Does the system work well?
I think it works a heck of a lot better than most other systems that have ever been used on that scale to address problems like that.
The Napoleonic Code, or the inquisitorial system. How do you feel about
I mean, there's massive evidence that common law systems outperform in pretty much every metric of you know, like economic outcomes on average, civil law systems. You know, there's a huge literature in economics about that.
Curtis, and your opponent mentioned slavery, and this reminds me that one of the things that is said about your viewpoint is that you, and I just want to get this corrected for the record if it needs correcting, that you favorably cite Aristotle that the relationship between master and slave is a natural human relationship.
So do you know the etymology of the word family? It comes from...
I've been on a jury and it's dominated by those with a strong personality. Yeah. But that's like why the jury has to all agree. All it takes is one person going, no, that doesn't add up, and then the case is thrown.
The Latin famulus, meaning slave. Actually, we use the word emancipation, which comes from Roman law, for separating a minor from its parent, because actually the relationship between parent and minor is literally the same thing. If your 15-year-old runs away, the fugitive child patrol will basically track him down and return him to you. And so, you know, we have this arbitrary division at 18 years of age where we say, oh, this kind of relationship is no longer acceptable.
But do you feel you're sufficiently reading the room when you make this case?
I have no interest in reading the room.
Okay.
None.
Cool. I like it when people do political suicide. Yes, please continue. Be more like Blue MAGA, please.
Mr. Yarvin speaks for himself, I see.
Right here? I think this is going to be our last question.
Charles here.
What's up, Charles? I bet you got a big dick. Sorry. Just being weird, dude. Just trying to spice it up a little. Last question, you know what I mean? Like, this is it. This is all that's left.
Charles here. Is the current pattern of self-sorting and redistricting really moderate and dissenting voices out, which represents 43% of America, a democracy at work, or the embracing of autocracy?
You want me to comment on the redistricting? I'm happy to comment on redistricting. I mean, look, I think there are an infinite number of flaws that I could go on forever about the way that our current democracy is working. Redistricting is one narrow aspect. I mean, there are so many infinitely better systems of voting that we could use. Certainly, things that like approval voting or ranked choice voting are a tiny step in a better direction to address some of the issues that you're talking about. Addressing the redistricting would be an even tinier step that I don't think really makes a very big difference, frankly. So I don't think, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's like a major question. There's just so many greater improvements that we could make and know how to make and other countries have made. So anyways, I mean, I don't think it's a great development that you're describing, but it's not on the top of my list of things I would worry about.
Curtis?
I would say people...
Also, what is Blue MAGA? Blue MAGA is what I call communist. Yeah. Blue MAGA are the ones that make the same arguments as the fascists do, except instead of it being against the government, they make it against corporations. And then the fascists make their arguments against the government. I consider these two of the same thing. Red MAGA and Blue MAGA. Their powers combined, they make dipshits of us all.
We'll vote on the basis of lawn signs anyway. There's only one election where people actually know anything about the candidates or care about them. That's the presidential election. You know, the way districts are drawn is simply a matter of advantage. We don't really have a system of like consensus collegial democracy in this country. We have a cold civil war. And essentially,
there's a woman out there.
You wanted a woman.
All right.
That looks like one.
All right. We're going to extend the... I hope this is a great question.
Genuinely and conceptually, how
Hey, I like the cut. She's rocking the bull cut. What's going on? Motherfuckers drinking Red Bull. Poland Springs water is terrible, though. I will put that out there.
Can totalitarianism be effective when that's not what humans are? It's not unified.
I don't have anything to say. I mean, it's not my position, so I would offer it to Mr. Yarvin.
Okay. So I would say that there is definitely a restless human striving for power. People want to matter, they want to be powerful, they want to be relevant, and we generally explain, democracy as saying, oh, this desire for power leads to good government. I don't believe any of that. I would say that the sort of human for striving for power is almost it's a relic of kind of Stone Age process. And what we see is that striving is fed by a lot of essentially pornographic things that convince people that they matter in relationship to Washington, whereas in fact they actually don't.
Do you want to comment?
I mean, I would say that the time when striving for power that I've seen has led to the most destruction and chaos has been the hundreds of years of monarchy in which there were constant civil wars and fights over transitions of power, as opposed to the extended periods.
Just look at the fucking history of Japan, bro. Like, dude, the amount of civil war that happened in Japan during the birth of the daimyo and to the Sengoku era of Japan, like the dawn of the samurai and how it continued out until the age of the Tokugawa, or the Toyotomi, bro. No, yeah, because Toyotomi got it and then Tokugawa got it after that. Yeah, bro. Dude. The amount of infighting and death and just destruction of that one country was unparalleled to anything in modern time. And that was one fucking country. I'll keep my democracy. Thank you very much.
Every study that you have shows that the average gap between civil violence over control of power under democracies is like an order of magnitude.
Yeah, dude. Same in China, the massive civil wars throughout time. Yeah, dude. The fall of the Han Dynasty in 200 AD that birthed the romance of the Three Kingdoms. Why are you always doing politics? Because music reactions are terrible on stream. So I do politics, video games, and then 2 songs, maybe 3 a day. Because politics doesn't nuke my channel.
Magnitude greater.
Yes, because your democracies are the Anglo-American Empire.
Okay, one more.
No, San Marino has been a stable democracy for more than 1,500 years. It was the earliest democracy. The Helvetican Confederation that became Switzerland is another. I mean, it's not true that it was just under Anglo-American Empire. Almost every case of extended regimes has been under some kind of democratic.
Okay, one more question. You're standing with the mic already. Can you tell us your name, please?
Hi, my name is Mia Winther Tamaki. This is a question for you, Glenn. What do you think of network states as an experiment for the tech CEOs as dictators?
What did you say, network states?
Yeah. Network states.
Yeah, Balaji Srinivasan's idea that basically groups of people should form online, you break off and try and experiment in different ways of living. Look, I love the idea of experiments in new ways of living. I really dislike the notion that you're going to get
It quite literally does. Music, dude, just ask Uncle Ray. Uncle Ray doesn't do music reacts on YouTube anymore while streaming because if the content ID is found, it immediately kills the stream. Music, if it is by anyone, if I do a Ren song, my stream ends in 20 minutes. Because by the time I get done with the song, the content ID picks it up and then it kills the channel. It literally kills it. And then I can't even download the video to go in and cut and crop the videos. Sometimes for 24 to 48 hours. So music is dangerous because they have copyright ID on music. There are almost no copyright idea on politics unless you watch Jubilee videos.
A bunch of people who are going to just completely agree on everything, go off to somewhere and disconnect.
If an even independent artist, if content ID is registered, so for example, Rin is one of the most unfriendly content ID. He is the most unfriendly content ID registry. His music picks up almost immediately. By the time my video is done downloading, the content ID is already flagged, which is good because then you can put in the request to have it reviewed and then he will help you fight it, but it does nothing for you while you're streaming. While you're streaming, it kills the channel. Even Chinchilla does that. Hell, even small indie artists can do that. if they have content ID options on, it can do that. Now, like people like Skinner Brothers works because theirs is under sharing. So as soon as the content ID picks up that it's there, it automatically kicks to sharing and they don't get mad that I'm doing it. But some people, like, and Ren is like prolific for this, Ren will help you, with your content ID claim, but it will pick up. And when that happens, you got to be careful because like if you're streaming, your stream dies then and there. Most indies artists are okay, not all. Should bust out the Native American flute solo. How do I check if mine is on? I think you have to be big enough, but there's a little button while you're uploading videos that you can turn on to allow collaboration with it.
Themselves from the rest of the world. So like, you know, the idea of a network, the network state idea is the name is really contradictory because the whole concept of a network was that people are connected in complex.
But I will bust out that solo after this.
Ways. They don't just like go off into some feudal thing and separate themselves from the rest of the world. They're a part of a network. That is the meaning of a network. The whole idea of the internet was that we don't just have these like feudal things. We have all these complex connections. And so like, yeah, I believe in network societies that have experiments going on and are connected to everything else. I don't believe in people like going off and like separating themselves from everyone else and running themselves like some kind of a feat.
Okay, everybody, thank you for your questions. We're going to move to our closing round. And our closing, we can do one of those. Yeah. In our closing round, each of our debaters once again stands up and makes an argument uninterrupted by appealing directly to you. And Curtis, you're up first with your closing. And again, reminding everybody our question is, should the U.S. be ruled by CEO dictator? Your closing, please.
Thank you, everyone. I'm trying to sort of go through the points here that I think have been sort of poorly.
Own the stage, bro. Get up and walk around. Own it, dude. Douglas Murray this shit. If you just stand there looking like a gargoyle, you're not going to have the stage presence you need to like bring home your argument. This isn't just ideas. This is a debate
that we've poorly descended into. I think the most important point is essentially, I think that when Glenn sort of kind of comes back to his studies and his like results over the last 200 years and so forth, I would say he's not thinking very scientifically because he's essentially looking at history through this massive fisheye lens where he sort of wants to essentially destroy all evidence before 1750 or so. And he says, oh, because they didn't have the internet and antibiotics and computers, we can sort of forget about anything they learned in this period of time. And I'm like, no.
You understand that all of those were applied while writing the Constitution, right? We took Enlightenment era thinking, which was crafted from Judeo-Christian beliefs as like a retort to those, and we wrote it into our Constitution. And we've created single-handedly the most successful government ever to govern this world. We've created more jobs around the globe. We've helped more people out of poverty. We've helped stabilize so many countries. We've put an end to a majority of major scale conflicts. Like we don't have the same type of wars that we used to. Like we also helped create the UN and like, what is he talking? Why would we ever look to the past as like what we should be doing now when we've far surpassed everything that they've done? All of their models were dog shit compared to what we're doing now. The kings would love to have the level of like happiness that our citizens have back when they were kings. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Actually, because they had to run a government without the internet or computers or phones, actually, we can see how impressive their results were. And there's an example of this that I like to sort of give in terms of the fall of the Roman Republic, because I think that we sort of heard this consensus idea out there that the fall of the Roman Republic was because, authoritarians took over. Actually, the fall of the Roman Republic was because the military system of the Roman Republic was much, much more effective than the civilian system. And the way Rome really found that out was that not even Caesar, it appointed this guy called Pompey to basically extirpate the pirates from the Mediterranean, which was like ending the drug gangs in Mexico. And they were like, we have failed to do this with the Roman civil system. Let's do it in the military way.
I don't see what religion played a part in that, though. Well, no, but like the Enlightenment era was birthed by like wanting to be free of like religious orthodoxy. And like, though it didn't necessarily say that religion was like the worst thing in the world, it agreed on an individual autonomy, but it was built up from that original premise Not that religion is actually like responsible for it, but they come from the same school of thought. So as much as if you want to look at like the sonic timeline of like hair metal into grunge was an answer to hair metal. Enlightenment was an answer to Catholicism, to me. And that's why thinkers like Voltaire talked about, you know, the things that they did, the way that they did. And it's why the founding fathers, when they created this country, many of them pushed separation of church and state, because they, even though many of them were religious individuals, many of them were deists that believed in religion, but also saw that their religion was like personal to them.
Top-down command, without any computers or guns or cell phones or whatever. As soon as they adopted the monarchical way of doing things, Pompey clears the Mediterranean of pirates in 3 months. It's very, very similar to Bukele in El Salvador. Here's the thing that basically...
Yeah, because it's easy to do things when you're operating as an authoritarian figure. But the problem is it's hard to maintain things while you're operating as an authoritarian figure.
That people said couldn't be done, and it was just done. And people are like, wait a second, we need a new system of government. And that's what created the Roman Empire. And I think that if that hadn't happened, Rome would have been destroyed by the Gauls, probably in about 50 BC.
Thank you, Curtis. And Glenn, the last word is yours.
217 minutes ago, we came forth upon this stage to debate whether government of the people, by the people, and for the people deserves to perish from this earth. The fact that we have to do that now is as clear of a mark as any of the crisis facing our republic.
True!
Because however extreme or even nihilistic you may find Mr. Yarvin's views, mark my words, he is no more a fringe figure in today's America than I am. He has the ear of the vice president and of the world's wealthiest man. Thomas Jefferson charged every future generation of Americans with a sacred duty to remake our institutions for changing times. If we forget what we love about our way of life and default on that sacred trust, then we richly deserve the future that Mr. Yarvin promises us. Because as Arnold Toynbee famously said, societies, great civilizations like the United States, never die from murder. They always die from suicide. And Mr. Yarvin today offered us a rich offering of the kind of cynicism and despair and distrust that rends pluribus from its unum, and that surrendered the French to the Vichy and Afghanistan to the Taliban.
True!
But the American spirit has never surrendered to any of the enemies that Mr. Yarvin would have had us surrender to. The Tories, the slave drivers, the appeasers, and the totalitarians all wilted in the face of the people who, like my ancestors, came here escaping the lash and the gas chamber. And it's in their name that I'm up here on this stage today, unwilling to be part of the first generation of Americans to surrender that legacy.
True!
Instead, tired as I am, I'm here to rebuild our republic so that my two daughters sitting at home, watching this debate on the very ground where their mother's ancestors fought and died to see off our last monarch, can grow up with the courage and the pride in their heritage to spit in the eye of anyone who demands that they kneel before their master.
Fuck
Thank you.
yes! Bro! Oh, this grumpy little fuck, dude. This little Jewish curly-haired son of a bitch just gave me a boner. That's the face of a man that knows what he just did to me. Look at that motherfucker, dude. Hell yeah. Look at our boy over here, Gavin, just looking deflated. Like, this motherfucker just this is the look that someone has when they're in the cuck chair, when they just watch their wife get plowed by like 5 men. Like, this is it. This right here. This man just got fucking dog walked, dude. Holy shit. TMI, yeah, I know, I apologize.
And everybody, that is a wrap on this debate. I want to thank our debaters, Curtis Yarvin and Glen Weyl. We so appreciate that the two of you came to the stage together, had this out with one another, did so respectfully throughout. So thank you for taking part.
Oh, dude, he knows he got smoked right there at the end. Holy fuck, dude. I bet you he went on a Twitter rant after this, and his buddy Elon Musk had to like put a butt plug in his ass so he'd feel better about how bad he just got gaped. I'm sorry. I shouldn't use video game language when... You know what, dude? We're going to keep playing.
Part in the debate.
dude. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, dude. Permeate U.S. politics right now.
Like you said at the end there.
Yeah, he's got the look. You know what? It can't be that good. Elon Musk tried to start a party with this motherfucker and he got laughed at. And then he had to go kiss Donald Trump's ring. Yes, daddy. You know, it's crazy that we enter an era where, like, everything's cyclical. Like, cyclical? Yeah, dude. Yeah. Words are hard. Like, it's crazy that we've entered this era, right? Like, now we're in the 1920s again. And we're having a conversation about whether or not we should have a democracy. Jesus fucking Christ.
There's a sentimental value to the memory of love. It's a pretty looking rainbow. What does it remind you of? Is it somewhere